have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in the court of law.
T.I. son King Harris. So allegedly, I guess he got to jail and they jumped on him in there. Say it's bad. And allegedly, I don't know how true it is, but you got people putting in the comments that somebody busted open. That's
New footage of King Harris behind bars just exploded online, and the streets are buzzing like crazy. Ty and Tiny's son been moving like he's built for that tough life, but now this viral jail clip got people seriously wondering if he's really about it, or just playing a role. Let's break down what really went down inside those bars and King's run-ins with the law. King Harris ain't no random suburban kid trying to act hard. This young dude is the son of Clifford Ty Harris, the self-proclaimed King of the South, and Tamika Tiny Harris. He was born into fame, power, and influence most folks could only dream about. But here's the twist. Sometimes having all that privilege becomes a trap when you're desperate to prove you're really about that street life. Everything boiled over on October 14th, 2024, when Dunwoody police snatched King up during what should have been a simple traffic stop. But this wasn't some ordinary celebrity kid gets pulled over kind of situation. It turned into pure chaos.
I stopped you because you crossed double yellow lines to turn left onto Mount Vernon. Well, I'm saying that you weren't allowed to turn left right there because it's separated by those double yellow lines.
I apologize.
I got you. Do you have your license on you? Go for it. Go ahead and step it up. Okay, Mr.
This was the moment when all of King's wild choices finally caught up to him, and in the worst way possible. He's pulling out of a Chevron in his flashy BMW, probably feeling untouchable, when he slices across double yellow lines and nearly smashes into a police cruiser. Anybody with street smarts knows you never drive reckless right in front of the boys in blue. But King's street education clearly had some big holes. The officer hits the lights and pulls him over for that stunt. But that's when things flip from bad to shocking. As soon as the cop steps up to the car, the smell of loud is creeping out the whip. And then he spots the strap sitting on King's hip. We're talking about a loaded 9mm, just chilling there like it's nothing. If you really know the streets, then you already see it. Rookie mistake number 1. Never make it that easy for the law to find your business. But here's where the situation takes a wild left turn. When the officer runs King's info, boom, an active bench warrant lights up from Pickens County. All because he skipped court on a 2022 case where he got snatched up for speeding, driving on a suspended license, and a DUI. And when the body cam footage from that bust hit the internet months later, it exposed a whole different side of King Harris. This wasn't the chest-out, tough-talking young dude we see flexing online. Nah, this was a lost and frustrated kid who barely understood his own legal mess. Listen to that energy shift. Because this, the same King who was on Instagram yelling about how he'd pull up on anybody.
What's my warrant for?
So your warrant is for a failure to appear. Dispatch is gonna call in and make sure it's still valid.
Failure to appear where? I didn't have no court dates.
It's for a DUI out of Pickens County.
Out of Pickens County?
Sorry, could you go and confirm that warrant?
The only DUI, I had a suspicion of a DUI a long time ago, and it was dismissed, so I don't know what they can be talking about.
But when real consequences hit, he's calm, confused, and trying to cooperate. He didn't even know which counties had cases waiting on him. And that right there ain't street smart, that's sloppy. That's straight up suburban kid behavior. King swore up and down he had no open court dates, even claiming that his 2022 DUI was dismissed. But anybody who knows the streets knows the truth. This system don't forget, even when you do. Warrants don't just vanish because you think they should. When officers tore through his BMW, they uncovered exactly what you'd expect from someone desperate to look street. King, already nervous, blurted out about multiple firearms inside the ride, including an AR-15 style rifle, plus a couple weapons that belonged to his passengers. And here's the wild contradiction. If you're really out here moving weight or handling business, you never volunteer game to law enforcement. That's hood rule number 1. Yet King is literally begging them not to search while spilling the tea on what's inside his car. That's not gangster. That's shaky rich kid behavior. But things went from reckless to dangerous real quick because King's prior juvenile felony conviction made it way bigger than just a traffic stop. Suddenly, he's staring down potential federal heat for possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. We talking about serious time here? Not no slap on the wrist.
He got arrested for a failure to appear ticket for a traffic violation. So they arrested him. But we know this is King, so we're just gonna call it. We're gonna call it that they locked him up for. They locked him up for.
During the arrest, you can literally see King's frustration boiling over as reality sets in. He keeps pressing the officers, asking what they expect to find, his tone getting sharper and sharper while they dig through his car. That tough guy mask he wears online. It was crumbling fast under real pressure, showing a young dude who clearly wasn't ready for the consequences. From there, King got hauled off to DeKalb County Jail, only to be extradited to Pickens County the very next day. And with courts closed for Columbus Day, he couldn't even post bond right away. That's when the cold reality of being locked inside a cell must have slapped him hard. No Instagram Live, no wild rants. None of that could save him this time. Even though the warrant eventually got recalled and King made bond, the stain was permanent. His rap sheet was now out in the open, and it wasn't charges that gave him street stripes. It was failure to appear warrants and weak traffic violations. Real street cats were clowning the whole mess. To make it even worse, this all went down right after his baby shower, when he was gearing up to welcome his first child with his girl. Jania Epps, King's girl and soon-to-be mother of his child, was watching her man spiral while he played gangster instead of stepping up like a grown father should. And social media? They showed King no mercy at all. Comments were flying in like fire, people saying, "He wanna be a thug so bad, and Tip gonna let him sit in there too." The internet stays undefeated when it comes to exposing fake tough guys, and this time was no different. DJ Academics dropped what might have been the most savage yet accurate take on the entire mess. AK basically voiced what everybody else was already thinking. King's chasing street credibility so hard that folks were straight up clowning him, turning his weak traffic charges into a joke just to make them sound serious. That cut deep, because it pulled the curtain back on the absurdity of King's whole situation. Why would someone born with every privilege and opportunity in life be so desperate to rep a lifestyle that most people are fighting tooth and nail just to escape?
I'm so puzzled why King feels the desire, need, want to be considered a street dude that badly. Why is he so obsessed with the struggle, with the life of being a street dude? Street dudes ain't really.
This whole saga showed just how disconnected King really was from the reality of street life. His arrest didn't just put him in the spotlight. It also exposed the tense father-son dynamic between him and Tip. T.I. had been out here talking tough, saying he'd cut King off financially and let him deal with the consequences. But seeing his son actually locked up, that had to trigger those natural parental instincts. Still, even with T.I.'s influence and connections, there were limits. This wasn't a situation he could just wave away. No matter the fame or money, King had to face the music like everybody else. And when the body cam footage finally dropped in August 2025, it lit the internet back up. The video didn't show a fearless, street-certified young boss. It showed a polite, confused kid completely out of his depth, nothing like the image he flexed online. And here's the kicker. The 2024 arrest was only the beginning. As 2025 rolled on, whispers started flying about heavier legal fallout. Rumors spread that King had been sentenced to 5 years in prison. Even though those reports were unverified and more gossip than fact, the damage was done. That arrest became the breaking point where King's Instagram persona slammed headfirst into cold legal reality. All that big talk about standing on business got put to the test once King was staring down real criminal charges, and the results weren't looking tough at all. His cooperation with law enforcement and total confusion about his own legal mess showed plain as day. He wasn't built for the life he was claiming. It was clear King Harris was drowning in waters way over his head. But that arrest was only the spark. What followed was a storm of personal chaos that didn't just test him, it shook his entire family. The streets don't play, and King was about to learn that lesson the hard way, paying the price when keeping it real goes all the way wrong. The reality check hit heavy when the world witnessed one of the most uncomfortable family blow-ups ever caught on camera. We talking about that infamous scene at the Atlanta Falcons game back in November 2023, where the Harris family dynamic exploded in front of a live audience during a heated stream. And this wasn't some harmless father-son squabble. This was deep generational wounds spilling out in real time. Picture this. King posted up in a luxury suite at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, going live on Instagram, trying to prove to the world, and even to his own pops, that he ain't soft. The irony was thicker than Atlanta traffic, and everybody watching could feel it. Just listen to that energy. Young King going extra hard, swearing he never had it easy, talking tough about how he stands on business, while literally streaming from one of the priciest seats in the entire arena. The contradiction was screaming loud, and the streets definitely caught it, but T.I. wasn't about to let that slide.
King Harris?
Ooh, you standing on business.
What we talking about, man? Come on, man.
Don't play with people's
Don't play.
kids now.
He
Don't
talking
play
about,
with
hey,
King.
come on, man. What? Come on, bro.
King said
You
he
talking about
created
King
the term standing on
T.I.P.
business.
son?
Yes, King.
He said he pulling up on.
His son kept running his mouth, and the so-called King of the South had to check his own blood on camera, throwing him in a headlock during the live stream when things turned too heated. That single moment showed the whole world that no matter how much money, fame, or luxury you stack, family dysfunction cuts deep in every household. The clash revealed something raw about King's psyche, the constant tug of war of being born into hip-hop royalty. When you grow up surrounded by wealth but worship a culture that glorifies the struggle, where do you carve out your true identity? That's the question King been battling his whole life, and the drama's been spilling out for everyone to see. Tiny didn't bite her tongue during that family meltdown. She dropped a bomb that had the internet in pure chaos. She straight up revealed that King was still sucking on a pacifier until the age of 12. That one confession completely shattered the image he'd been pushing with all his tough talk, and the streets never forget dirt like that. Instantly, it became ammo for every critic already doubting his credibility. But truth be told, this family tension didn't just pop up out of nowhere. If you rewind back to 2019, you'll see the cracks forming early when 14-year-old King begged his parents to homeschool him so he could chase rap full-time. T.I. wasn't blind to the warning signs either. His response back then was blunt, no sugarcoating. You ain't put in the work yet. Pop saw his son trying to skip the grind, reaching for glory without putting in sweat equity. But King wasn't trying to hear any of that wisdom. That's when the gap between King's privileged lifestyle and his desperate street aspirations started to show clear as day. And soon after, wild incidents began surfacing online, moments so clown-worthy that the internet roasted him without mercy, dragging his name into the mud. Who could forget the infamous aluminum foil bowl fiasco from January 2024? King hopped online, posting a clip of himself eating ramen out of a homemade foil bowl, claiming he ran out of dishes. But the hood wasn't buying that story at all. Folks instantly called out the fake struggle, pointing out the contradiction. How you flexing like you starving in the trenches while rocking designer fits and living in a mansion with maids and butlers? The comment section was ruthless. People clowning, saying, he wanna be from the trenches so bad, but he eating foil bowls in a mansion.
I ain't never ate with that day a day in my life.
Nigga, you didn't have a silver spoon.
Look, I used to have to come to my grandma's house because I'm getting in the fight.
cried like a baby to go to your grandmama's house.
Every day.
You used to hold your breath.
Every
and
day.
no tantrums to go over there.
Neighborhood. I don't want to be in these gates. I want to be outside in the neighborhood.
The internet, as always, stayed undefeated at exposing fake hardship. And just when you thought it couldn't get worse, came the cringeworthy moment at a high school basketball game. King jumped out during halftime to perform one of his tracks. But instead of hyping the crowd, the students straight up laughed and heckled him. That's how shaky your credibility is, when even high school kids roast you during your own performance. But his biggest L came when he tried to spark a beef with comedian Drusky over the phrase, standing on business. Instead of building respect, it turned into another moment of the internet questioning whether King was serious or just desperate for validation. King really tried to claim he invented the phrase standing on business and even threatened to pull up on Drusky if he didn't get credit. From the start, the whole thing was corny. When KY hit back on the Breakfast Club, he didn't hold back, straight up saying, "Come on, man." He said he pulling up on you. KY basically said what everybody already thought. King talks tough, but he goes home to comfort and luxury every night. Instead of letting it go, King fired back with weak personal jabs about Drusky's weight, calling him built like a punch buggy. But the damage was already done. He didn't look dangerous. He looked pressed, chasing relevance more than respect. And then came an even bigger embarrassment. King got exposed on 2 Chainz' podcast for not being able to spell the word tomorrow. Imagine being 20 years old, struggling with basic spelling, while your pops, T.I. himself, sits there watching in disbelief. The clip went viral instantly, and not in a good way. People started questioning his whole upbringing. What kind of education did this young man really get? Piece by piece, the image was falling apart. These moments painted the truth in bold colors. King Harris was trapped between 2 worlds he couldn't fully claim. Too privileged to understand real struggle, yet too immature and unfocused to earn genuine respect through achievements. In the streets, respect only comes from 2 things: authenticity and results. And King had neither.
I'm in a headlock during the live stream when things got too heated. That moment right there showed the world.
T.I. eventually got fed up and pulled the plug on his son's financial support, hitting him with the tough love that probably should have come way earlier. But by that point, the damage was already done. King was speeding straight toward consequences that no amount of money or privilege could erase. The sad truth? King had everything he needed to win legit. He had the connections, the money, and a father who mastered the rap game like few others ever have. Instead of using those resources to carve out his own lane, he stayed busy trying to convince the world he came from a struggle that wasn't his. By the end of 2024, the writing was on the wall. King Harris was heading for a hard reckoning. His fake persona was getting exposed left and right. His family ties were stretched to the breaking point, and his music career was sinking instead of soaring. The streets don't salute cosplay, and King was about to feel that lesson in full force. But here's the kicker. The family drama and social media fails, that was just the prelude. What came next was way more serious. King's obsession with chasing street credibility was about to land him in real legal heat, tests that would put everything he claimed about standing on business to the ultimate test. For the Harris family, 2025 wasn't just another year. It hit different. Word started buzzing heavy on the streets, rumors claiming King had been sentenced to 5 years in prison. And if that wasn't messy enough, reports began swirling that he got jumped inside a Georgia County jail. Now, whether those stories were a solid fact or just internet chatter, the very fact people believed them shows how far King's reputation had already fallen. According to the talk, King was brutally beaten by multiple inmates in what looked like a coordinated ambush, while conveniently, the surveillance cameras malfunctioned during the whole thing. If that story held any truth, it was the nightmare scenario for somebody who spent years bragging he was cut out for street life. Here's the reality about jail politics. Your reputation don't vanish when those bars close behind you. If you've been fronting online, real convicts will test you the second they get a chance. And the alleged attack on King was painted as a targeted hit, both because of his high-profile family name and because of that wannabe gangster image he kept pushing. Translation? Behind those walls, he became a victim for not being able to back up all that tough talk. T.I.'s reported response showed just how desperate things had gotten, allegedly pleading for his son's release and calling the jailhouse beatdown a targeted attack. The same father who once swore he'd use tough love to make King grow up was now said to be begging the system to protect him. That's when you know the game flipped real quick. But while King was allegedly battling for survival behind those walls, another storm was brewing on the home front, one that threatened to rip the Harris family apart from the inside. By September 2025, the streets were buzzing with talk of pure baby mama drama between King and his girlfriend, Jania Epps. and this scandal laid bare just how messy King's personal life had spiraled. The allegations were wild. Reports claimed Jania had been bleeding King's pockets dry with manipulation, playing a long finesse game under the mask of love. People whispered she was allegedly using their unborn son as leverage to tap into the Harris family fortune, demanding financial support from T.I. and Tiny before the baby had even touched the world. If you know anything about hood politics, then you know getting finessed by your baby mama is one of the coldest L's a man can ever take. T.I.'s alleged reaction was reportedly savage. Claims say he told Jania straight up she wasn't there for love, only for what she could pull out of the Harris vault. He made it clear she wasn't about to finesse her way into the family's bank accounts. But that's when the family drama hit a whole new level of messy. Rumors started flying that King clapped back at his father by leaking a so-called dirty list of T.I.'s alleged affairs, fueling whispers that Tiny was inching toward divorce. Now, whether that list was real or pure gossip didn't even matter. The fact that people believed King might betray his own father like that showed just how toxic things between them had gotten. And the chaos didn't stop there. King's own relationship choices kept piling on the dysfunction. Earlier in 2025, he openly admitted to being in an open relationship with Jania, claiming she didn't mind his cheating as long as it didn't spark drama. That revelation exposed a whole new layer of instability, not just in his legal battles, but in his most private, intimate life too. And still, the hits just kept coming. September 2025 turned explosive when Boozy Badass jumped in, publicly mocking King and fanning the flames of a nasty rumor about a leaked intimate tape allegedly involving him with another man. Whether the tape was real or not, didn't matter. Boozy weaponized the gossip to rip apart King's tough guy image. He even dropped the harsh line. That little boy got them tapes out. Baby mama ain't playing. Whole family wilding. You can't raise no street if you soft yourself. Boozy's words weren't just jokes. They were strategic strikes. He wasn't only clowning King, he was taking aim straight at T.I., questioning the King of the South's ability to raise a so-called street soldier. In hood culture, that type of disrespect is heavy. It hits both the son's credibility and the father's legacy in one shot. But while Boozy stirred the pot, T.I. was already drowning in crises. The scandals, the legal chaos, the family fractures, it was all piling up. And by mid-2025, insiders claimed T.I.'s spirit was breaking under the weight. Reportedly, he reached a point of pure exhaustion, admitting in resignation that despite all the money, the influence, and the street wisdom he carried, he couldn't save his son from self-destruction. That statement marked a dramatic shift, from a father dishing out tough love to a father confessing defeat. It was the clearest sign yet that the Harris family saga had gone beyond damage control. This was collapse in motion. The money drama only poured more gasoline on the fire. T.I. and Tiny's massive $71 million legal win against MGA Entertainment got slashed down to just $17.9 million in July 2025, and instantly, whispers started flying. Would the Harris family use that payout to bail King out of his legal mess? Or would T.I. finally stand firm and let his son face the storm alone? The speculation had the internet buzzing. Even the so-called lighter moments showed how deep the dysfunction ran. In September 2025, King popped back up in headlines after offering Tootie Raw free veneers if he joined a gym challenge. While folks laughed at the ridiculousness, it also exposed King's mindset, still chasing clout with flashy gestures instead of dealing with the very real problems crushing him. That move was peak King Harris, generous on the surface, but tone-deaf to the bigger picture. Always showing off wealth, while missing the lessons that actually matter. When you step back and look at King's 2025 story, it feels like a perfect storm. Privilege, bad decisions, and consequences that even millions couldn't erase. His fall from a protected celebrity kid to an alleged prison target stands out as one of the most dramatic collapses in recent hip-hop history. But the truth is, King's saga was never just about one young man's mistakes. It became a cautionary tale about fame, family, and the dangers of living an image you can't back up. King Harris's downfall isn't just his story. It's a mirror held up to hip-hop culture and society as a whole. His desperate chase for street credibility highlights a dark truth. In this game, people often value the image of struggle over actual success and authenticity over real achievement. The tragedy? King had every resource, every connection, every tool to win legit, yet he gambled it all chasing validation in the wrong places. The Harris family drama proved that money and fame don't erase dysfunction, they just put it under a brighter spotlight. King's fight to carve out his own identity outside of T.Y.'s shadow pushed him down a path so reckless, it nearly destroyed both their legacies. What makes it hit even harder is how avoidable it all was. If King had locked in on his music, leaned into his family ties the right way, and built something real, he could have thrived on his own terms. Instead, his obsession with proving he was really like that dragged him into legal chaos, family betrayals, and nonstop public humiliation. The streets don't forgive, and King Harris found that out the hardest way possible. The only question now, does he bounce back and flip the script, or does he become another casualty in the endless war between privilege and street credibility? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and if you rocking with this breakdown, don't just scroll, hit that like button, smash subscribe, and keep it locked right here for the next jaw-dropping story coming your way.